sudden Senate vacancy, questions about Mitch McConnell, a Congress that barely works, and an establishment determined to push progressives out while corporations buy up more of our lives. Tonight, we're talking healthcare, affordability, monopoly power, money in politics, and whether America is becoming a country where ordinary people own nothing and the billionaires own everything. But before we get started, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Click that bell so you get notified when new videos drop, and leave us a comment of 7 words or more to feed that algorithm. Without any further delay, let's get started. This is the Daily Gripe. Welcome to the Daily Gripe. My name is Denise. I'm here with Neil. Together, Neil and I give you our opinions and our spin on current events, news, and politics. Today, we're going to talk about craziness going on in the Senate. Found out in the middle of the night that Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina died suddenly. This leaves a pretty big hole in the Senate. So Neil and I are going to talk about that. So let me bring Neil in and let's get into this. I found out that Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, basically had a heart attack and dropped dead. And sorry to hear that. They're already talking about, appointing a replacement for him. And I find that interesting because Mitch McConnell has also been. Nobody knows where the fuck he is. They know he's in a hospital. He allegedly also suffered a heart attack and hasn't been heard since, unless Scott Jennings is to be believed, and had a 17-minute conversation about history or something. So in the state of Kentucky, it used to be that the governor could appoint a replacement for a vacancy if the Senate seat becomes vacant. And in 2024, the Republican supermajority changed that law, and they now have to do a special election. And so I think they are keeping McConnell on ice to push to August 3rd, which is like the date where you'll be within 90 days of a major election and you don't need a special election. But as for Graham, that's a different state with a Republican governor, and they are already talking about selecting a replacement. So what do you think about this?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Just I mean, we're so close to the election time, and you got to remember. I mean, like, first of all, Congress hasn't really passed anything in the last year
This
and a
whole
half.
term. Yeah,
Right?
the
They
whole
haven't.
term
They
that he's
haven't.
been.
They really haven't passed anything. You have Mike Johnson is basically telling everybody to go home every other week. So these guys aren't doing anything.
We
They're
pay
just
their salaries and their health care, and these people have spent more time on vacation than they have been in
yeah, they don't care.
in Congress.
Yeah, they because at this point in time, they've recognized that they don't have. I mean, what is Congress's job? Congress's job is not only appropriation of money, but it's oversight. And what they've done is they've abdicated their oversight responsibilities. If you've noticed, there haven't been any investigations on anything. They're not even like, usually even Congress will bring in experts to talk about legislation that they want to pass. You're not even seeing that anymore. And if you are seeing it, it's such on a minute scale. Like, they brought in Mr. Global for an energy discussion that went nowhere.
That went nowhere. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So they're not serious people. They're just no longer serious about doing their job. And again, I go back to, because they really don't care about democracy. At some point in time, and I think it's getting closer and closer, you're going to have this president say, well, Congress doesn't do anything anyway. Let's just get rid of them.
Yeah.
Why are we paying salaries? Why are we even paying them? I can make all these decisions. We don't really need them for anything. And his base will say, yeah, I mean, look at these fucking guys. They're old, they're dropping dead, like, why the fuck do we need them?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and getting back to, well, Lindsey Graham is a surprise because I don't think he really had any, kind of health conditions going on that I heard about. Did you hear of anything? Like anything that would indicate that he could suddenly drop dead of a heart attack, or I didn't see anything. He just ca
Listen, it we live in America. Anybody can die at any point in time. I mean,
This is
healthcare is so
true.
terrible in this country. As much as everybody wants to talk about, we have the premier healthcare in this country. More Americans die from lack of healthcare than in any other country in the world, right? Like,
Yeah,
we lose more citizens via lack of healthcare. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, you know.
yeah,
So whatever. I mean, it is what it is. We move on, you
we
know.
move on, and so, I do wanna share, a video that came up because the Iranians and their Lego videos, they are real quick to respond. I found this early this morning, and I know I sent it to you, but, this is really clever, and, they seem to be alluding to the fact that, they may have something to do with this, I don't know. You tell me what you think. Alright, here we go.
First on the list. Walk down, 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 down. Walk down, walk down. Lindsey flatline, hear it now. You call for fire on every town. First on the list. Walk down, walk down, walk down. No Senate shield, no donor crown. All your words come circling around. First on the list, walk down, yeah. You said give Israel every bomb they need. Level the place, make the whole thing bleed. Strike the refineries, hit the sites. Overwhelming force day and night from the Senate floor. You fed that flame, new map, new target. Same old game, you called it strength as the bombers pass. Now every word comes back at last. No more Senate floor, no camera light. No staff to there to spend the night. Gods that kept count and kept names. Every ruined home remembers the flames. Now you stand before judgment with nowhere to hide. Men have children, so standing side by side. You wish for destruction, you wish for the end. Now they're the ones watching as your soul descends. Walk down, walk down. Lindsey flatline, hear it now. You called for fire on every town. First on the list, walk down, walk down, walk down. No Senate shield, no donor crown. All your words come circling around. First on the list, walk down. Walk down. Sacred defense. First on the list. Sacred defense.
Yes.
So, guys, what do you think of that? I mean, it's kind of alluding to this was I
They're
mean, I think they're full of sh
I don't think they're alluding to anything. I really don't. I think that what they're saying is that it's ironic that the man who wished for death and destruction on others, right, got got his, got karma, right? I mean, he got karma.
Yeah,
It was just desserts. He was wishing for death and then he died. I
yeah,
mean,
it's a
I have nothing nice to say about the guy. I really don't. He wasn't a hero. He's not somebody who should be treated as a hero. He was a traitor
no,
to this country. You know, I think it's disturbing that people voted for the guy, because I don't know what you're voting for in that instance. He
yeah,
he
what
he
what
is
what did he do for South Carolina? I mean, what kind of
he brought
legislation did
mon
he
he brought money back to South Carolina. I mean, that's what these politicians do. They bring money back and then they create death and destruction everywhere else. And then they say, "Well, I gave you a new park. So you should be happy that you have a new park." You know? I raised your taxes and I screwed you in a million different ways by not giving you health care and all these other things, but I gave you a park, so you have to name the park after me and go fuck yourself. I mean, that's what
Wow.
all these politicians do. You know, you go to Kentucky, and the Kentuckians will say great things about McConnell because McConnell brought back the money. I mean, it like Kentucky was getting $2 for every dollar that they spent in taxes. So they would give $2, the $1 to the federal government. They got $2 back.
Right. Oh,
You know,
wait, you're saying from federal taxes back.
yes, yes.
So that's
How we
our
always
money.
talk. Right. You know how we always talk about giver states and taker states? Like South Carolina is a taker state. You have Kentucky, that's a taker state. These are taker states, right? So when you talk to constituents, right, it's well, I'm paying $1 and you're giving me $2 back. Fuck yeah. My guy's doing a great job, right? Here in New York, we pay $1, we get like what, 69 cents back or something like that.
Something like that. We
Right.
do we get back? We give. We're a giver state.
I know, but that's what
Maybe
I
we
mean by a
should
giver state. We give $1 and then we get 69 cents back in federal
maybe we
money,
should keep that money since we're not getting anything.
right? Like
Have
the
s
blue states are giver states, red states are taker states, you know? And so they like their politicians because they're getting back more than they're giving to the federal government. But just as you said, that's our money that they're taking. Okay. But they like their politicians because their politicians are taking our money. I mean, like, let's be honest. And they feel that if they elect somebody who's a Democrat, that Democrats are going to like take their money back. They don't want that.
Right. Right.
It's but at the same token, what they're doing is they're cutting off their nose in spite of their face.
Right. Yeah. But in the meantime, the one things they don't give them, they give them a park. They're not giving them better education. They're allowing in, allowing in data centers that are poisoning the air. They're not helping farmers. The farming industry is being hammered by tariffs. Depends on I guess, where your values are.
But again, it's who are you voting for and what are those people going to do? And at the end of the day, when people say Democrats aren't better than Republicans or vice versa, you got to go to the state, and you see in the state that Democrats aren't even active. They don't even, right? They don't, I mean, in Kentucky, it's great. They elected Bashir as their governor, who is a Democrat, but everybody else is still Republicans. It's still a Republican state. Democrats still haven't made the headway in the state that they need to, even though they've elected their leader. And not for nothing, right? You go around to Kentuckians, and this is a funny story, and I think I even mentioned it before, right? They have their own healthcare, right? So they have a healthcare option. They participated in the Affordable Care Act,
Well,
right?
ACA, okay.
Right, the ACA, but remember, the ACA said either a state can do their own or they can participate in ours, right? So Kentucky was one of those states, because it was a red state, they did their own. And they called it Connect Care. Connecticut
Connect
Care.
Care. I think
Connect Care, right? And then they went around and they polled people in the state, and everybody in the state, 90% approval for the health care that they have, for what Bashir put in place for their health care, right? 90% approval rate. Not only that, it gave health care to hundreds of thousands of people who didn't have health care before.
Wow.
Okay. But the funniest part about the story is that if you ask them about the Affordable Care Act, or what was dubbed Obamacare, right? Overwhelmingly, the people in Kentucky hated it and didn't want it.
It's the same thing.
Bashir
Most people
had to manipulate the selling of his health care plan as not being the Affordable Care Act in order to be able to sell it to the legislature and the public to be able to pass it. So he gave them great piece of legislation that was that was afforded to him by the Affordable Care Act, okay? But his constituents hate the Affordable Care Act, but they love what he put in place, even though it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Same thing. You know what? People people will asked if to compare Obamacare and ACA care because they don't know that Obamacare and the ACA are the same thing.
Right.
So
Well,
Obamacare bad, ACA fine.
it comes down to, again, propaganda and the media, right? The media pounded everybody with Obamacare, 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 right? And nobody knew it as the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And keep in mind, Democrats don't help themselves because they also referred to it as Obamacare.
Yeah.
They never corrected the record. They never defended themselves. And that's what Democrats do. They pass legislation to make their base happy, but then don't campaign on it, don't say the benefits, don't do anything, because at the end of the day, they know that the Republicans are going to roll it back, and they're okay with the Republicans rolling it back. So they could say, well, we made you happy because we passed it, but then the Republicans rolled it back, so now you got to vote for us again. Okay, it's all a game. It's all a fucking game.
Wow.
Like, this has nothing to do with actually making our lives better. It's all a game. Just as you said with the medical debt. Democrats took the medical debt off our credit reports, and then the Republicans put it back on.
Put it back. Yeah.
It's the same fucking thing. It's all a dance back and forth. Democrats have every opportunity to codify things in law and stick to their guns, and then they always cave at the end of the day, because again, they're all being paid by the same people, and it's all a manipulation, right? Like, if you're focused on this over here, we can do a million bad things over here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So moving along, I know I mentioned McConnell earlier, and allegedly, Mitch McConnell is still in a hospital. Scott Jennings came out and said he spoke to him for 17 and a half minutes, but people are still questioning where he is because a video surfaced on CNN where a neighbor took a video on the day that Mitch McConnell was rolled out of, you know, taken out to the hospital. And the video is interesting because apparently they said that Mitch McConnell, the body that they took out of McConnell's home, allegedly is McConnell, was covered by a blanket with his feet sticking out. And nobody seemed to be in any kind of a rush to get there. So I'm going to play this. Um, it's not a great video, but you can see that there really isn't any urgency amongst the people there.
Not writing it.
There was another picture of him with hooked up to ventilators and all that kind of stuff too. Whatever. They're weekending Bernie's at the guy. I mean, like, whatever.
Yeah, well, see, and I think that falls back to what I said earlier. I think they are just holding out, and after August 3rd, I think they'll announce his passing.
What does it matter? What does it fucking matter?
Well, I think if they were to, I mean, I think it would be too soon now to even do a special election, but if they did, who's to say that Thomas Massie wouldn't step in and try and take that seat?
Thomas Massie ain't going anywhere. He's not taking the seat. He's not running for Senate in Kentucky. Can we all, like, despite what everybody thinks about Thomas Massie, he is not running for Senate in Kentucky at the moment. He is not running for Congress at the moment. Okay? He is not running for anything. He is in Congress. He is in the House. He is not going to give up his House seat for 6 months so that he can be the junior senator from Kentucky for 6 months, just to have that for 6 months on his title, when he is a senior Republican, okay, in the House of Representatives, and he is making a lot of headway, and he has a lot of relationships there where he can actually try to do something in the next 6 months. He ain't running. It's a wet dream of everybody to have. It ain't going to happen. He's better off sticking where he is.
Where he is.
Okay. He's
You think
better off.
you think he might, since he's out at the end of the year, do you think he's gonna come back and try and run for president?
He'd be terrible. He'd
He
be a
would
terrible
be.
candidate. He would be a terrible candidate. He's horrible. He has one shtick that he sticks with, and Democrats seem to love him for it, but he votes 90+% of the time with Republicans. So he's against universal health care. He's against everything that Democrats stand for. The only thing that he's for
Epstein.
is getting Trump and releasing the Epstein files. Okay, that's it. And my question then has to go to, why aren't Democrats being more forceful, like Thomas Massie, on the release of the Epstein files?
It's a good question.
Right? That should be the real question for Democrats. Why are Democrats so wimpish as it relates to the Epstein files? Why are we as I'm not a Democrat anymore, but why are progressives, why are people on the left so enamored with Thomas Massie going after Epstein and not pushing their representatives to go after
Well,
Trump
Ro
on the
Khanna
Epstein
was
files?
good. Ro Khanna's the other
He's the
side of
only
that.
one, but he's not a corporate Democrat. He's a progressive. You notice how the Democrats don't bring up anything. They're stuck with this housing bill that ain't going to do anything for housing for anybody. Okay? But meanwhile, the United States is losing 4,000 jobs a month. Okay? The jobs
At
report
least.
from the Labor Department is coming out where the United States is losing over 4,000 jobs a month. Biden was adding over 30,000 jobs a month. And we said that was bad. That was bad. We need to get rid of Sleepy Joe because the economy is bad. We're not adding any jobs, and we need to get rid of them. And we were adding 30,000 jobs a month. Wages actually started to climb. Real wages actually started to climb. And now all of a sudden we are losing, as the United States, 4,000 jobs a month for the last year. Okay? And
Is that an average?
Yes.
I feel like it's higher. Okay.
Yeah, it's an average. And where are the Democrats? Democrats haven't said word one about it. They don't even talk about the fact that we're losing jobs.
So let me ask you a question. Let's expand on this a little bit. What do you think is the most important policy or issue that Democrats should argue for when campaigning?
I think the biggest things are obviously healthcare is huge. I think getting money out of politics. I think corporate charters in states, changing the corporate charters in states. Obviously, at the federal level, you can't do that. If we change corporate charters at the state level, keep in mind, we then can eliminate money in politics at the state level, which then eliminates money in politics at every level. We change the corporate charters, just like
A state did that.
Just like they did in Hawaii.
It was Hawaii. Thank you.
So, but that's what I'm saying. I think that those are really sort of like the two biggest issues that we need to deal with at the moment. I get that housing is and transportation are two huge issues that need to be addressed. But we cannot address either one of those issues until we deal with the healthcare issue and the money in politics issue. Okay? They are really cramping our, any ability to do anything else in any other sector. Because the oligarchs and the money, the other thing, I'd say if you're going to focus on something else, it's antitrust laws. That you're going to focus on antitrust laws, breaking up these companies. So
that's a big one. But I think for the average American, I think the biggest issue for them is affordability, being able to afford food and basic necessities.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
You affordability is a broad, right? This is what we talked
It's a
about.
broad
It's
statement.
broad. It's a broad statement. What does that actually mean? I'm putting it into terms of policies that actually directly impact affordability. So healthcare is an affordability issue. Healthcare impacts all the other aspects of our lives. It impacts our pay because right now our healthcare is through our employer. Okay.
Yes.
If our employer doesn't have to pay for our healthcare, okay,
It's more
and
money
we
for
can
you
get a
and me.
bump in salary, that's more money for you and me, right? Like, I mean, like they're embedded in these issues are affordability. The second thing, breaking up the companies. Okay. Right now, we're being price gouged because everything
Definitely.
is owned by 1 to 3 companies. 1 to 3 companies own and control everything. If you break up those companies into smaller companies, then you have more competition. That's capitalism. Competition breeds capitalism. Having
right.
1 to 3 companies that sit there and where the CEOs are talking on a daily basis, that's collusion, right? Like that's collusion in the marketplace. But if you have a lot of companies and they're all vying to get you to buy stuff, then you actually have real competition, and then you could have actual, real prices come down.
Yes.
That
Yeah, I
impacts
couldn't agree more.
affordability. Not only that, as you break up these companies, you're creating more jobs, right? So as these companies merge, you have less jobs because you need less people, right? So now you're creating more jobs. Creating more jobs means that you're going to have competition for those jobs, which means increases in wages because now you're fighting over the same people, right? Rather than going out into the marketplace and you have 10 different people fighting over one job. Now you have 20 jobs and you have 10 people that are qualified. So now you have to pay them more. Okay, so so when I talk about those 3 things, I am talking about affordability. I am talking about those things. Okay. I
Right.
just may not use the term affordability, right? Because that's just a buzzword as far as I'm concerned and is meaningless,
Right. Well,
right?
I
To
wanted
every American.
that's the reason why I asked press, because I wanted you to clarify that for the audience.
Yeah. I think when you listen to progressives talk, and they're giving specific policies, just like Mamdani did, right? So Mamdani gave very specific policies. One of his specific policies was childcare. Well, living in New York City, it's very expensive to live in New York City, and and what drives people out of New York City is not taxes. As much as everybody thinks it's not taxes that drive
It's
people out of
not.
New York City. It's families. Right? Having a family drives people out of New York City. Okay. I know. I lived in New York City. I'm not talking like somebody who didn't live in New York City. Okay. A lot of these people who are giving you their assessment of New York City have never fucking lived
Never
in New
been
York
there.
City. They have
Nope.
no fucking idea what they're talking about. I lived in New York City. I can tell you a lot of what drives people out of the city is having families because it is very difficult not only to have a family in New York City, but it becomes very problematic in a lot of different ways, not only schooling, but childcare, you name it. And it could be very, very expensive. I mean, childcare in New York City could be the cost of an apartment a month or more,
Yeah.
you know?
And
You know,
apartments ain't cheap in the city.
and I mean, the childcare in New York City could be the salary of somebody in another state.
Yeah.
You're making
I
$30,000
agree.
in another state. That could be your childcare in Manhattan
For a year. Yeah.
for a year. So that directly addresses why people are leaving New York City is the childcare issue. So now all of a sudden giving free childcare to people or government sponsored childcare, now all of a sudden those people can stay in the city. It becomes more affordable to them because now it's not coming out of their pocket directly. Okay. And you may not like having to share in that, but fuck you. You don't live in New York City. You're not sharing in it because it's only New York City that pays for it. And you know what? If you're living in New York City, you get it. And if you're an employer in New York City, you get it. You don't want to lose good employees because they have to move out of state because they have a family, right? And I'm sorry, people get
Exactly.
older and people have families. Not everybody stays young forever and wants to work in a job where you're working till midnight and then you have to wake up at 6 a.m. the next day and start work again. Because that's Manhattan. They don't work 9-to-5 jobs in Manhattan. I'm sorry. Move to New York if you want to talk about New York.
Oh, they
I
love
live
to pick
there.
on New
I
York.
know all about New York City. Shut your fucking. I hear every fucking pundit talking about Mamdani in New York City, and they have
And they're
no fucking
all the
idea what.
billionaires are going to run. They're
Right,
not
they're
going
all a
anywhere.
bunch of fucking liars. They have no fucking idea what they're talking about.
In
None.
fact, and you know what? It's interesting that you should bring him up, because he was he was attacked in The Hill, right? An article in The Hill was picking on Mamdani and basically calling him arrogant of all things. Yeah, Mamdani's preening arrogance will ultimately prove his downfall. Yeah, I'm not seeing that. Yeah, that was the headline on an article in The Hill, basically picking on Mamdani as being arrogant. He's he's living up to his policies. He said he would deliver childcare. He did. He said he'd make housing more affordable. He's doing that. I don't see how that makes him arrogant for doing exactly what he promised his
No,
constituents he would do.
he they want him to. I read that same article, and they want him to expand his base to include billionaires. Right? So they want him to do the same thing that every other politician has done, and has decided to say, if you earn less than a certain amount, you don't deserve to have representation. That's essentially what they're saying. So 250 years ago, we issued a Declaration of Independence because of the fact that we as a people were not being represented by those in government. Not because we were paying too much in taxes. That's bullshit, right? Because we did not have a say in how we were governed. And now you have The Hill and other publications coming out saying we don't deserve representation because of our income level.
Right. Right.
Okay?
And
I want everybody to think about that, right? Really think about that. You don't deserve representation because of your income level. That's what they want you to understand. They keep telling you the opposite, but that's what they understand.
that's where they're going, right? Because they also talk about being the Supreme Court justices who are originalists. Okay, so when the Constitution was first ratified, it only allowed for not just white men to vote, but wealthy white men who owned property. The working class that didn't own property, they were not allowed to vote, regardless of whatever the color of their skin was. That's what they're pushing back, and I think that's where they're going when you see companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street all buying up housing and properties all across this country.
Yeah, we've
I mean,
talked about that.
yeah, well, I mean, not we haven't really talked here about that on the Daily Gripe, and
Right.
so
Okay.
you
Sorry, we
know,
did that on our other podcast.
yeah, and so, if you subscribe to us here, make sure you're also subscribed to us on our local channel, the Tao Talk podcast, where we also talk about national issues there, but more broadly, we talk on local issues and how national issues impact us at the local level. And also about our local town. We also talk about that as well. But we have talked about this issue with these big corporations coming in and buying property. And I think they're still doing it. One of my clients put their house up for sale. They owned a double lot here in Scotchtown. So they have a house, and then they had owned the lot next to it where they eventually put up a garage on it. And they put the house up for sale like a month ago, and it was sold. And when you consider the fact that the interest rates are higher, people don't have as much money, and yet home was being sold at a much higher price than the typical home in that neighborhood because it was a double lot. It makes you question who's actually buying these properties and if it's really a person or if it's somebody representing a corporation coming in buying these houses real quick.
We've heard that, they want a subscription society. They don't
Yes,
want anybody
rental
owning
society.
anything. Rental society. Everything is being geared towards that. As I've stated before, like HUD is geared towards rental society, rental prisons. That's what they want. And again, if you are poor or you earn less than a certain amount, you don't deserve representation. And that's what they believe. They don't believe in taking care of, people. It's only about enriching themselves. And the sooner that people get on board with that, the sooner things will change.
So
Okay.
do we can get
We have to,
together and stand up.
we have to fight, and we have to elect good people with integrity who are going to go and are going to stick with what it is that they're saying and that they're going to represent people like us versus representing just the billionaires or the corporate class.
Yes. Yes. That's and that's exactly where I was going with that. Um all right folks. So that's going to be our time for today. Um Let us know in the comments what you think about what we talked about, how you feel. Do you feel that this is becoming a rental society? And what do you think we can do to fight back? So leave us a comment, 7 words or more. And as always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. This is our new channel. We're trying to build it up and we want to bring you along with us. All right, guys. So in the meantime, please take care of each other, be safe, and we love you. We'll see you in the next one.
Peace out.
All right.